Hey, it's Clint Garrett, Ace Networker, and what does a router actually do on a computer network? We're going to take a look at the steps a router takes to show the simplicity of routing and routers to get to the core of what they do. So stay tuned. Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? So what are the steps a router takes when routing traffic on a computer network? We looked at switches and how they work using the frame headers, the source and destination MAC addresses. In the first video in the series, we looked at how a router actually passes traffic from one network or local area network, a LAN, to another network or LAN. But what are the exact steps that router goes through to make that happen? And how does a router know to do that? A physical router, an actual physical mechanical piece of router equipment or hardware, will have multiple external physical ports on it for connectivity. Each of these ports is typically connected to a different LAN or local area network. And just like the physical NIC on a PC or laptop, each physical port has its own MAC address. Now this is an actual router, an actual physical router piece of equipment. You'll notice that it has a lot of physical ports on the outside of it. Now it typically won't have the same amount as you would find on a switch for a local area network, but it will have typically a lot of RJ45 ports on the outside. It doesn't necessarily have to be. You'll notice there are different types of ports on the outside of this one. But those are the physical ports or interfaces that are very similar. They use the same type of cables and connections that a network switch does, a LAN switch does. So each of those ports will typically be connected to a different network that the router is routing to. Now keep in mind that traffic on an Ethernet computer network is conveyed using frames. We looked at switches and determined they read and transmit frames on a LAN. Router physical ports or interfaces are no different in that respect. So when a frame arrives on a router's port, the first thing that router has to do is verify that the frame coming in on that port is addressed correctly for the MAC address on the router, the destination MAC address in the frame. And just like any other Ethernet network device, the router also looks at the FCS field, the frame check sequence field in the frame, to verify the algorithm matches the data and bits in the frame. Now, once the router verifies the frame was destined to actually reach the router itself, the router then removes the frame header and trailer and compares the destination layer 3 address, the one in the packet header inside the frame. It compares that layer 3 address to the route table that the router itself has stored in its own memory, either manually programmed into it or that the table that it learned through dynamic routing protocols. And we'll get into those in the next video. If the address does not match an entry in its own route table, the router will discard the packet. But if it does match an entry in its own routing table, it will forward the packet to the appropriate interface for delivery outbound to the correct destination network. Just before it sends the packet out that appropriate port or interface, the router will encapsulate the packet into another layer 2 frame that's now correctly addressed. It will apply the correct physical layer addresses on that outgoing frame, the source and destination addresses, to deliver that new frame to the next hop address. Now, I've seen a lot of people in the industry that don't know enough about the basics of a router like we just covered, and they will start blaming the router for things a router never actually does or isn't responsible for, especially when traffic is not traversing that router correctly or at all. And that's easy to do. We think there's a lot of magic going on inside these boxes, but really there's not. Once you learn the only things a router looks at and does, you'll know better than that. Now, we'll also get into routing protocols in the next video, but we're also going to talk about some other features some or most routers can do, like prioritizing traffic or prioritizing certain routes over others or routes over others. So be looking for those videos shortly, and I will see you there.